Hello, Kevin Jones, Realty Professionals. We had guest speakers at the association regarding insurance. It is one of our hottest topics. So please, if you have the opportunity, go ahead and watch through because it could be something that you need to hear regarding buying or selling a home in today's market. So throughout this talk, you're going to hear certain things such as clue reports and the ability to obtain insurance for fire insurance or homeowners insurance. Not only the California Fair Plan is being forced upon a lot of people, but then also having all the add-ons regarding different things such as personal belongings and what have you. So if you have more questions, give me a shout. We'll get you with a great insurance agent and make it happen. Kevin Jones, 805-473-0300, 805-473-0300, license 011288892. Have a powerful day. Go get them. Bye now. And remember, it's never too late to buy and sell great real estate.
I think you all are going to recognize these names. We have Scott Ostrowski and Tina Jasinski. Thank you very much. You guys can come on down. I'm going to let you introduce yourselves, if that's okay.
Ad lib, of course.
So you will be giving us an update on the current insurance.
I know, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah,
Super excited.
very excited. Actually, I am very excited. Well, thank you very much. I'll leave it to you
Super.
guys.
So we were told to stay between the windows because I have a soft voice.
Hi.
Scott's loud.
So like after about 20 minutes, we're kind of messing with it.
So one time at band camp. Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Ostrowski.
Recording in progress.
Yeehaw.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Ostrowski. Thank you. Is it president-elect, or what is Scott? What is your position? Is it?
I prefer rock star.
Okay. Thank you very much. And my esteemed colleague, TJ.
So I'm Tina Jasinski with Goosehead Insurance, and most of you know that I was an insurance defense paralegal for about 20 years also, and a financial advisor. So when I look at insurance, I'm looking at it from cover your BUTT lenses, because that's what insurance does. It's supposed to pay for things so you don't have to.
B-U-T-T?
BUTT.
That was your B-U-T-T?
And although we're trying to stop the hecklers in the audience here, for those in Zoom, we apologize. It's hard sometimes herding cats like myself, so that resonates with me.
Yours cat.
Um,
So anyway, everybody's heard about the craziness in insurance, right? It's crazy. I've been working my tail off, right? I hear from people, oh, nobody's insuring. All the carriers are leaving town. Well, not all of them, so that's the good news. But I wanted to share with you a few statistics. Some of you have already heard these before, but you've heard of the Thomas Fire. Remember that back in Santa Barbara and Ventura counties? That burned almost 282,000 acres. It caused more than $2.2 billion in damage, and it burned 1,063 structures and damaged 280 more. There's also the Rancho River fires up in Mendocino County, if you remember. That was like one of the most destroying fires ever. It burned almost 460,000 acres, caused $257 million in damage, and destroyed 280 structures and damaged 37 others. And then we have Camp Fire, Paradise. Burned almost 154,000 acres, destroyed more than 18,000 structures, and caused over $16 billion in damage. That was the deadliest one. I just insured a couple people that live up there that just now had their houses rebuilt. So things like that is what impacts their premiums. That is what impacts whether the carriers are going to stay. in addition to inflation, the high cost of repairs, because you know, if you went to Home Depot and bought that 2x4, it's not the same price as it was last year. So, you know, costs are up. And then you have the reinsurance rates. So insurance companies have insurance. Their rates have went up. So if the insurance companies can't be profitable, then guess what? They're gonna leave, they're gonna stop writing for a little bit, they're gonna change their guidelines so that, you know, they can, in hopes, be profitable. And that's why I always tell people, I say, just have people call me. Just have people call me because every carrier is different, they have different guidelines. Some won't take a roof 20 years old, even though it's, you know, concrete tile. And if they have a claim, or if they have a pit bull, or things like that, that impacts their premium, or which way you can place it better.
So what Tina has done, kind of laying where we came from. We have all these catastrophic losses. We know how much we're paying for a dozen eggs, and that rolls over to insurance as well. And although minus the California Fair Fine, which everybody knows that phrase now, insurance companies are for profit. And when a company is for every dollar they're bringing in, on the average, they're paying out $1.25, $1.50, maybe more. That's not sustainable. So that's where we came from. Where we're at today, Tina also addressed as well, and wonderful with the numbers and whatnot. We know that stuff has gone up, interest rates are still where they're at, and that impacts every commodity that we purchase at the retail side, contractors purchase at the wholesale side, and that's where we're at right now. And with the number of carriers that have left the state, I'll give you different companies are posturing differently. So, I'll speak for farmers. We're writing new business right now in the state of California. California is 35% of our market in the entire nation. And depending on what numbers you are, we're in the top 3 as insurers. You told me 9 years ago that Allstate and State Farm wouldn't be writing new business, I would have told you were crazy. Well, guess what? I guess I'm the crazy one now, because this is the environment that we're in. And it sounds so gloom and doom, and I get that. And is it going to be sustainable, or how long is this going to last? We're going to talk about that a little bit. But at the end of the day, premiums are up, and yes, it's expensive, and it really sucks for those that are on a fixed income. I get that, and I get those calls every single day, just like Tina is as well. What can we do to reduce rates? What can we do? There's only a limited things that we can do. So we've talked about where we came from. We're talking about where we're at now. Where are we at moving forward, Tina?
Where are we at? Where are we at?
That is here now. Thank you for establishing that.
But, you know, I just wanted one more thing. You know, the insurance companies haven't been allowed to increase their rates either. You know, they have to keep people, they have to, you know, they haven't been allowed to, insurance carriers haven't been allowed to raise their rates, so that has a lot to do with it too. But we are still writing, and what would help us help your customers is, number one, don't wait till last minute. I mean, we've got carriers that, you know, it takes 2 or 3 weeks for underwriting to get a quote. And there's no box to check, there's no email to send, and there's nobody to call to speed that up. And we're just at the mercy, you know, it's like we're, you know. So things that you can do to help is, how old is that roof? Just, again, I cannot stress about having to just send them to us so that we can talk to them, because there's some things that we have to ask, like, do you have any high value items? Well, that's part of my presentation every time, because, you know, high value items have limits, sub-limits within the policy. What did you have in mind about where we're going? Because I don't know.
So underwriting, yeah, I think what she means to ask me is, what about underwriting requirements? So our underwriting requirements, as as a broker agency that she can farm out to many different places. And for myself as a farmer's agent, I have to give farmers the first right of refusal. If they say they don't like it or they're not writing anything, then I can broker it out as well. So from an underwriting perspective, every carrier has their own guidelines. So if real estate agent Sally Joe Bob calls and says, hey, you know, I have a client that's thinking about buying a property in, you know, in maybe 60 days, might be a 30-day escrow. What do you think about a premium price? You asked me that, you know, a couple years ago, I would give you a ballpark. Right now, I'm gonna give you the highest ballpark possible because the only constant in the industry today is change. What I could write with company X today may not be the same tomorrow. And I'm not breaking out my violin, I'm not crying about it, it's just the environment that we're in. And you guys are experiencing that too. You guys have experienced that with the low inventory for very several months. You've dealt with the interest rates and the ebb and flow of that, and what's the speculation on that? So yeah, from the underwriter perspective, yeah, it really does matter. To get a quick code is really difficult.
Yeah, it's hard.
But I guess you did it, so.
Well, it's hard when somebody calls and says, hey, can you give me a ballpark on what 123 Main Street's gonna look like? There's no freaking way, because you don't know anything about the customer. And I did that one time. I did that for a real estate agent in Paso one time. I went ahead and quoted it, blind quoted it. It's out in Templeton, out in the sticks. It's a back road. There's no fire hydrants, nothing. And guess what? The customer loved my quote. Loved it. So guess what? They're closing. It's like, all right, Tina, let's go for it on that quote. Well, when I did, it didn't fly, because guess what? The customer had a claim. Or so it just makes us all look. I don't want you to look silly. I don't want anybody to be kind of putting their foot in their mouth, you know. So because those guidelines change all the time, and we're in the thicket of it, and we still don't even know when they're going to change. Talked to somebody yesterday, and it's like, if you like this, I can bind it right now with an effective date of 11/1 or 11/15.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tina. So some of the carriers, like farmers ourselves, right? So 4 months ago, they said, okay, we're gonna start to still write new business, but we're gonna cap it in California for 7,000. All right, cool, I get to plan my life around that, not a problem. So in the month of July, we hit the 7,000 cap, July 28th. The month of August, we hit it on the 19th of August. Last month, 5th of September. So, I'm not having to market anything locally, because when I'm getting calls from all states, and I'm not saying I'm all that, I mean I am, but I'm not saying that, right? I just happen to represent a company that's writing, well, at least for the first 4 or 5 days. I'm not saying that as a little bit tongue in cheek, but that's just how fast we are putting things into our pipeline. So, and then once we hit 7,000, we can still quote all day through farmers, but we just can't bind anything till the next month. So anyways.
But yeah, I mean, you can talk to a customer one day, and then, you know, you get the green light, and you go to bind, and sorry, not writing. Condos are a tricky one. Condos are super tough. I've got one left. I got one mobile home carrier left.
I was gonna say, how's your market for mobile homes and manufactured?
Manufactured, mobile, whatever, but it's just a tough market out there. And I have people say, well, what do you think it's gonna look like next year? Well, my crystal ball's in the job, it's fantastic.
You don't have the magic?
I wish. But, you know, just hang in there. You know, I tell people, I say, if you find that dream house that you love, put the offer in it. Don't wait for the quote, because sometimes even getting a quote has to go through the underwriting process. You know, and you know, any delay somebody else could swoop that property.
For yourselves or clients that are refining or anything like that in regards to renewals, If you get a renewal and you see a 40, 50% increase, be happy that you got a renewal. And I'm not, and I feel like I'm Eeyore, there's a cloud over here, the Addams family, right? It's all the gloom and doom. How I say that, so I'll just take my home for example. To rebuild my home, it's about $500,000, okay? My premium went up from, I'm gonna use round numbers, from $1,100 to $1,500 this year. I got pissed as a consumer. But of course, I have the other end of it where I'm having to write homes that have been with companies for 20, 25 years before I even bought my agency, because the companies are non-renewing them because they're reducing their risk at the end of the day. That's all that's happening. So make sure for yourselves, for your loved ones, your sons and daughters, do not miss a premium payment because you may not be able to get reinstated. Okay. Tell your clients to be very conscientious moving forward in regards to, we have what we call clue report, which doesn't sound very fair whatsoever, but if I'm buying a home in AG today and there was a loss 3 years ago in that house, I wasn't in there, but it impacts the premium because generally speaking, there's pipes and roofs that either have broken or have leaked or that are going to. Okay, and yada yada. So, moving forward, there are some stuff on the legislative side that there's some activity, as you may or may not have heard. Back in September, both Department of Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara, he has written some literature in regards to trying to get some of the carriers back into the state, and so has Governor Newsom. Now, regardless of your political affiliation, which I'd like to say I really don't care about, but I do, but that's for coffee or beer. It's nice to hear that there is activity at the state level to try to help out the consumer. Because as we all know, this state is a very consumer-friendly state. However, with the lack of carriers being able to raise premiums through over the last 2 years, because argumentatively that was coming on the heels of COVID. Oh, there was also an election coming up for the Department of Insurance Commissioner. I can't deal with any of that. They didn't allow us to raise rates. Now we're raising it, and we're all feeling it. And you're the bad guy, and I'm okay with that. Because my $500,000 home that I have to insure now for $1,500 sucks that I have to pay $400 more a year, but my $500,000 home is going to be rebuilt. What's it worth to somebody? So, yes, Mr. Boyer.
So, I'm not sure, and Stacy McKay and I have been chatting about this. I'm not sure consumers are aware. Like, yes, I get your point about don't let the insurance quote keep you from writing the offer. However, as you may or may not know, we have built-in contingency removals in the contracts, and they're to meet certain milestones. And I think most agents are well aware that there are disclosure milestones and inspection milestones, but I don't know that we've always been thinking front of mind about getting your insurance secured before you release all those contingencies, because that's tied up into that. So, it's usually standard default in the contract is 17. When we're competing, we usually trim that a little bit so it's even less. So once you get locked into a contract, you may have 10 days to get a confirmation that you can insure that property. Is that a reasonable amount of time what is the shortest amount of time when we call you up, tell you all about the property, and you get going on it, that you can confirm you can insure that property?
And I'm gonna piggyback because I also heard that I've heard it falling out at the last minute, so not really a binders in place. You are quoted that you'll get this premium, but until the house sells, you don't actually get the binder. So is there any safeguards in that, I guess, with my other conversation? Actually, thank you.
That's actually the piece that we're all struggling with.
Yeah.
As a lending standpoint, because we don't get the binder, and then the insurance companies are going off of, we can only write so many in this month and then we're done. Then we get to that point, we're like, oh crap, now we gotta go find new insurance. So we're telling people up front, like, you gotta pound it down.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to talk to your insurance company right now.
So
And I've had 3 or 4 like just didn't
Yeah.
know, we were scrambling trying to find it. So,
You didn't call me.
I did.
So, so maybe,
Go ahead, Scott.
So as far as getting the time to get a quote, that's pretty quick. So when I get the green light to bind it, that's usually where there could be an underwriting delay. Bamboo, I think Allstate's using Bamboo as one of their carriers to write right now, and that's one of mine. And Bamboo writes difference in conditions. They write regular HO3s, which is insurance lingo for home. And they also write an E&S product, an excess and surplus. That's a whole different topic. But once I get the green light to bind, it's taking them 2 or 3 weeks to finish the binding process. That's the only one that I know like that. The other delay, which you're familiar with, is Fair Plan, because you have to submit those timestamp photos. And thank you, all you agents and stuff that'll go out and take the pictures for me. But that one takes 5 to 7 days, and maybe a little bit longer for Fair Plan.
can, go back to your question. So is 10-day window, was that the original question after people
Yeah,
brought
so
by?
like say for example.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, but I
mean,
compartmentalize.
so let's use an example. So like I opened an escrow almost 30 days ago. Day one, we have 10 days to cancel, essentially, for any reason.
Is it a 30-day escrow?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So by day 10, we, that's not the right number of fingers, but that's okay. By day 10, we're removing the buyer's ability to cancel and retain their deposit.
All right, so may I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So 30-day escrow, you call me on day 1. You should have a quote within 5 days. If we get verbal, written, carrier pigeon confirmation that we're gonna bind that policy, whether it's gonna be through the lender, escrow, or the insurer, that's all I give a shoot about. As soon as I get that green light, I put that binder in place.
Okay.
Where some of the challenges lies is that lender or loan company X says, okay, or title company X says, okay, we're gonna close on the 30th. All right, cool, I bind that, right? Oh, we had to change that up for whatever reason, right? And that rarely happens, right? And now it's the 29th, or it goes into the next month. There lies some of the challenges that I have I can't speak for Tina, maybe that's easy peasy for her, I don't know. Going to the lender question, stand down. Going back to going back to Stacy, go to your question now. Sorry.
I've heard at the last minute that before the binders put in place, that they decided not to insure this house. And so then they scrambled at the last minute and started a whole new insurance company. So I've heard of that happening.
I've heard of that happening.
Yes, and so what my question is, or I guess to educate or us, not me anymore, but the agents not removing insurance contingencies until you're ready to close.
So we have the ability to extrapolate
Remove everything
items
except
from
for
the
insurance.
contingency removal. And so most likely, without telling us what to do, because I'm sure you don't want to do that, but you would advise that we leave that insurance contingency open for as long as everyone involved will allow us to.
I think of all parties concerned and you have flexibility, I think that's the key to success right now for
Yeah.
the insurance use, if I understood the question correctly.
Well, I think it's setting the right expectations. The flexibility up front is, look, we all know insurance is a little bit of a challenge right now. We're gonna have to leave this in place until almost close of escrow, because anything can change on a dime, and then your buyer's gonna lose their deposit because they can't even get insurance, let
For sure.
alone to get the loan, and that's,
Which seems like a no fault of theirs, thing, that they.
For sure, absolutely.
and getting a
Okay, so-
listing agent and getting that clue report up front to make sure there isn't anything that's gonna cause a problem. That was the other thing I was thinking.
And then if there are hiccups along the way between the quoting process and again, each system's different, each carrier is different of how, where they do their underwriting, I's dotted and T's crossed, whether that's pre-quote or between the quote and the bind, it just depends, right? Sean, I see you, but, But yeah, so those challenges can be very dynamic as well, for sure. Yes, sir?
So Joe spoke at San Luis 2 weeks ago, and he suggested that people leave that in their contingency plan until it has been closed. Number two is, he said, be kind, because we got a lot of folks sometimes that want to be real anal about it's got to close on the 30th. You could end up being the one screwed next time, so just remember that.
Yep.
The third thing is you can't just cancel immediately 10 seconds afterwards. There is, things of due diligence, there's a lot of things. And yes, they could drag that thing into escrow hell and not release their escrow, and you could end up with a real mess on your hands. So taking a little bit of time to figure that out. The last thing is what's the minimum time you can get an inspection on the property? Because that's the other thing that starts being the downfall afterwards, because the lender then gets something that's now $150,000, $150 a month where we counted on 75, now they don't even qualify for the loan. So that's the other thing that's been going on. So inspections seem to be our biggest thing, is when people go out to actually inspect the property. Then there's all these conversations of changes.
Just for clarity, so you're talking from the home inspection for the deal, because our home inspections don't go out until after we bind, after the close date.
And,
So they don't go out ever before.
No.
no,
Now, well, not a.
I've seen
home
some of them
inspection.
going out.
So many of us, like myself, I have a due diligence to go ahead and do pre-underwriting and make sure it's good right. That's on my end. Whether I go out to the property itself, I get pictures from the agent, I get pictures from somewhere, as long as we know what's the roof, because she spoke to that, what's the roof condition?
Yeah.
Does it have eaves that are dangling in the wind, or yada, yada, yada?
Large
Is
tree
that
limb,
lighting? Is that
large
lighting?
tree limbs
I think
over
that's lighting, I don't
houses,
know.
yeah.
but let's go back 1 second. Number one, if you need to change the bind, if you need to change the date, an effective date, I have binder at goosehead.home. They return that updated binder within an hour, if not less. What I always recommend, like I said, if when I talk to people and I get the green light, it can be October 4th, and I can bind it for, November 4th. So you've got a policy in place that's gonna go November 4th. Now, after closing, if our inspector goes out there and discovers, oh wait, they do have a pit bull.
That's a different topic.
But what I'm saying, that when it's bound, it's bound. I mean, at least for my experience. Where we have problems is I have one person, I bound it for October 1st, throughout a date. October 1st now is passed, and we're now at the 15th, and they had decided to close early. But we're past that, so now I need a document evidencing the early closing, because we're going back in time. It has to be given to the carrier to change the date, and that's a whole different thing. But, I haven't ran into an issue where I bound a policy and now we're closing and the policy cancels.
Yeah, there's anomalies, there's one-offs all over the place, right?
I haven't
Yeah,
ran
for
into
sure.
that issue.
Ashley, you have a question?
Okay, so you keep mentioning pit bulls, and so in a transaction that we're normally involved in, I mean, unless we're shopping in a neighborhood where there are rules about the type of pet, I may not know that my clients even
That's why
have
we
a
talk
pet.
to the customer.
Okay, so.
And it's not just pit bull, there's a whole.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I've never heard that you guys ask me about their pet situation.
Yeah.
But that being said, so the governor had a whole raft of bills on his desk this week to sign. One of them was to impress upon the insurance commissioner some sort of release of restrictions on rate increases. Did that happen? I mean, I know we're still on Friday, so the pressure for the insurance commissioner to let you guys, or let your companies, be basically better able to operate in California, and maybe some of those companies coming back was the idea, right? Wasn't that the yeah, so that didn't happen yet?
Well, so September 21st, he signed an executive order to allow more, it said strengthen property insurance market, and there's a whole litany behind that, right?
Right.
So I think that's what you're speaking to.
Yeah.
it's great for progress moving forward, and that's how I really wanted to kind of end this, right? So
Right.
it's not all gloom and doom, although it seems like it. There's positive things moving forward. There's also also strategic that the Commissioner Laura announces about sustainable insurance strategy moving forward as well. So
Which
those
may encourage the companies that hopped out, like State Farm
are all
and
states.
Allstate may come back if those,
If their actuaries are happy about the opportunities moving forward and their risk mitigation, yeah.
Well, they have to be profitable, because every carrier's
Yeah.
every carrier's a business, so if they're not profitable.
Don't they
I'm
have to
sorry, I
have
couldn't hear
capital
you.
reserve
It's
requirements?
Missy.
Missy Perry has a question on
Oh.
Zoom. I just want to make sure we recognize her because she's
Sure.
been waiting for a while.
Oh, thank you. After the.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Missy.
Okay, hi, thank you. I just got a quick question. So I have heard that even if a binder was issued, this is kind of a level of distinction I've never had to pay attention to before, but there's such a thing as like a temporary binder versus the, I guess, non-temporary permanent binder. So even having the assurance from you guys that there is a binder in place now, it may not be the done deal. Is that correct? And then the other thing I wanted to just say is the mind shift that we as agents should have, that we really should be thinking about that close of escrow date right up front between buyer, seller, and agent as a fixed, like, let's take it more seriously as compared to maybe before when we all think, hey, maybe we can all agree to close early, or flexibility, like just really change our thinking, right? Like the date's the date, let's stick with that because of the insurance component. But yeah, the binder temporary question, thanks.
I have a scenario unless you would like to address that. So, binder is contingent on sometimes nothing, contingent on signed documents, or sometimes what it seems like a litany of documents that are required. Each company, and again, here's where it's kind of crazy for us and how to articulate that to you as the real estate professional or the loan officer or the client. Is just real difficult. And so that is what I think you're speaking of there, as if certain underwriter requirements don't get met to get that binder to a policy, then that's where it may be considered temporary. Air quotes. I think before Dave, I think we have Mr. Hinson again.
Sure, so two things. One, the moving close date is really problematic right now. It really is. Especially if, as a lender, we can be done early and everybody wants to close early. I think a lot of people still don't understand what Tina said about that. Is we have to get like letters from escrow and changing the dates and it's a
So
process.
when you're going back in time, if it's in the future, it's not a big deal.
Correct, but I'm talking about closing early. Like, hey, we're done, we're 2 weeks clear to close. And everybody says, yeah, let's close early.
Great.
It's a problem.
Closing dates and moving are not my friend. I don't want to come out and hold them.
Okay, second comment was, it's my understanding that this could be a 2 to 4 year problem because a lot of the major carriers also have to have capital reserve requirements that aren't currently being met because of all the wildfires and floods and everything we have. Is that a big?
It depends if they're admitted carrier or non-admitted carrier, and that's for a whole different 4-hour segment. And I'm not trying to, so to be admitted carrier, you have to meet certain requirements for the state of California. And if you don't meet them, then you can be a non-admitted, and that's what she was talking about, ENS and that kind of stuff, so bottom line is, yes, there are minimum requirements. Allstate or State Farm moving out, how that worked with the Department of Insurance, I don't know. I would, and I don't do real good on speculation this time of year. It's just, doesn't mean you don't project, but speculation can sometimes bite you in the backside, right? So yeah, that's really, I don't know, but yeah, 2 to 4 years. I'm hoping a year, to be honest with you. As things kind of normalize, whatever that is, because if I hear normalize one more, how many times do we hear that normalize, right?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Since COVID.
Dave.
My question's a little different. In my world, whenever we get a new client in, we run credit, we spend time, we do all these things in order to be pre-qualified. I'm curious, on your side of the table, are there fixed costs that you incur when you get a referral from somebody? Meaning, what kind of financial consequence is it for you guys to quote 10 people and maybe only sell one policy? Is there a pull-through ratio, or is there any kind of metrics that would affect you guys negatively in that regard?
You mean just
Cost of
outside
time.
of our company metrics?
Well, yeah, I guess, it depends on how it's structured, I guess.
I'm an agency owner.
So that
and
clues
so
report,
he's
does
an
it cost
agency
money?
owner. Pardon?
The clues report, does that cost money?
I code them all myself, so it's just a matter of time.
So it's your hours.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to get at, is it
Yes.
time or is it financial,
Yeah.
consequences?
But I think at this point, because of the number of the carriers, I can talk to somebody pretty quick and know which carrier.
Did you get your question answered? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, basically it's time. I just didn't want to.
It's- But there's also on the backside too, that we don't, and maybe Tina does, because, I'm big on numbers, but I'm not gonna, for $4.22, which carrier X or Y or Z charges me for that, I don't give a shoot about.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be rude on that.
But it's not like you're quoting, the clue report costs like $500 that you're out.
Right, that's what I was.
When,
Now-
when it doesn't close.
Now, MVRs, now on the auto side, when you're doing an auto quote, and you're running a motor vehicle report, we do get charged for that. I'm not running a lot of auto these days, there's just not a lot of auto carriers out there. That's another thing, don't let your auto policy lapse. But, I hope that answered.
Any,
We got 2 on Zoom, so Joyce DeLine, go ahead.
go ahead, ask your question, please. Or am I supposed to read that?
She has her
Can you hear
hand.
me?
Yeah, go ahead, Joyce.
Yeah, I'm just curious, if you have a seller that sells a property that they had an insurance claim on, and then they go to buy another property, is their new rate on the property they purchased impacted by a claim that they made on their old property?
Yes?
Yeah.
So it follows
Yes,
the name
ma'am.
of the person.
It doesn't have to be the person
Hey,
that's
what?
buying. Premiums are dependent on the person buying and the house they're buying.
I like to say the claim follows the house and the person that was living in at the same time.
And a theft claim will follow you around. It's like having a DUI. It's gonna follow you from car to car. It doesn't matter what car you're driving.
Okay, thank you.
Don't get the,
But yeah, prior claims on a house will affect.
was there another question out there?
Yeah, Melody Maddox, go ahead.
Melody.
Hey, Eminem.
Hey guys, I just want to thank you both for coming. We appreciate you so much. Our local people that are giving us advice. Quick question. Gov talked also about on the RPA, Fortress Fire is coming it's gonna be here this December. What that is a report that's gonna show the homeowners, anybody can get it. It's not required, it's not, it's not a disclosure, but it's gonna show the trees, what to cut down and estimate value, also the roofs that could catch on fire. Do you guys look at that? Because I've been hearing from insurance people, they look at the, like you said, the debris and the eaves and the fire departments, but this report's gonna go on the RPA, and I wonder if the insurance industry is gonna start maybe looking at that Fortress Fire report.
So you can answer that first.
Love you, Melody, but we don't even look at the NHD. It's up to the carrier. Every carrier, it's like every one of us in this room. Some of us like chocolate, some of us don't, some people like creamer in their coffee. It's just all different. And so depending on those guidelines, because that's part of our process when we're talking to people. Hey, are there any trees overhanging? How old is the electrical and the plumbing? They usually don't know, they're buying. But these are questions that I have to ask. And the roof. A lot of times we can see in the pictures, just on the pictures that you post online, I can see it's a 2-story, it's got a concrete tile roof and two-car attached garage, I can see all that. But what's not in there is the dog. How old is the plumbing and how old is all that stuff?
You must have got a really bad claim about a dog I'll supplement her answer, and I think then we need to wrap this up probably. Yeah, good, I'm glad it was that bigger. So normally, no, I don't look at the reports either, okay? Only if necessary. And what I mean by that is, my due diligence is to make sure before I send anything to, as a quote or intent or anything like that, is to make sure that there's not a oak tree that's growing across the entire roof span or anything like that, right? Or if there is like a tree that is slightly growing over the top and it might cost a couple dollars to get rid of it, not get rid of the tree, but get rid of that limb. There's sometimes goodness in being proactive versus reactive, is like the approach that I like to talk about on that. So, but not normally. If there are some questions, Bill, in regards to things that are just a little bit more detail oriented, if there was like pre-existing damage and it wasn't proven that a report might be helpful on that, home inspection report, but yeah, but not normally.
We're gonna give Barry Brown the last question, if that's okay.
BB?
Go ahead, Barry.
Hey, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a question and I also have a request. So real quickly, a question, if a homeowner makes a claim on their home, let's say last year because of the rains, they had a leaky roof, they put in a claim with their insurance company, that insurance company denied that particular claim. Does that count against that homeowner for doing that, and does it have any impact on their future rates? That's my question. And then my request is maybe if the two of you might be able to get together and just like escrow has done for us in the past, maybe put together some insurance red flags, you know, that we as agents should be thinking about, so that when we're doing our investigation of the property, we might kind of have that in the back of our heads. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
I'm gonna go out there and say absolutely, absolutely. I tell every single one of my customers, I usually quote like with the $2,500 deductible, just because
Right.
because it doesn't make sense to file a claim, and a claim is gonna stick with you, depending on which kind of claim, depends on how long, and it depends on which carrier. Sometimes those claims are still open. So one of the things is to make sure people have if they do have a claim, make sure they have that letter from their carrier that says that it's closed. Because sometimes on that clue report that you mentioned earlier, it shows open. And I don't have a carrier out there unless it's surplus lines that's gonna take a house with an open claim. And we kind of touched on a few things
Yeah.
about the.
Does it count against
red
them?
flags.
Yeah, a claim's open whether it pays out or not. There's been damage to the home, and that's what the insurance carrier cares about, and hasn't been fixed. And there's ways to mitigate that, for it doesn't count against the person that either lived in the home or buying the home.
Depends on the carrier.
Unless they had a pet full. Any other questions?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Again, if you have any questions regarding real estate, insurance, buying, selling, renting, we do have a property management company as well. So if you have any questions, give me a shout, 805-473-0300, 805-473-0300. Kevin Jones, Realty Professionals, 011-288-92. Have a powerful day. Go get them. And always remember, it's never too late to buy and sell great real estate.